This is a process diagram. This process diagram. Hi everyone. Sorry. This is a diagram, a process diagram, and we call it process diagram just because we have sequences here, step-by-step process there. When we have arrows there, which represents that this is a sequence, then we call it as a process diagram. So when we have the directions or arrows, indications that one moves to another, that particular diagram is called process diagram. When we don't have arrows, then we call it just as a diagram. It's a picture. So it's not actually a picture. It is somewhere. It is a step-by-step process. The process is moving. Or whatever the process is, whenever you present a process in academic task 1, you have to present it in simple present tense, because we don't use any other, because it happens. It happened in the past, it happens at present, and it will happen in future. So when we are representing that in the picture, in the essay, that we have to present it in simple present tense. So this is what we have to do here. So simple present tense is the tense that we have to use in your the process diagram. And how this differs from the statistical diagrams, so the statistical task 1, that is classical task 1s. The classical task 1s are bar graph, line graph, pie charts, and table. There we have a lot of numbers to compare, and we are free of numbers. We don't have any numbers there. It's very easy to analyze the picture, as well as this picture has titles there: hand picking, transporting, washing, quality, cold storing, all these things. Normally in process diagram, you won't be having these particular headings there. You have these headings there that makes the thing a little bit easier at present. This in this particular diagram, it is better for you to understand and put it in words. So let's start from the beginning. So it starts from the hand picking. So you pick the apples from the orchard, and it ends with the dispatch to the customers or the retailers or the wholesalers, whoever it is. So we have some process from hand picking till the dispatch. We have some step-by-step process, and that's what we have to explain in the body paragraphs of this particular task 1. So actually I told there is 2 types of diagram. Simple diagram, what we have seen yesterday. For example, the meteorological department of Australia, how they are collecting the data for the weather reports, the weather forecast. So that's not a step-by-step process. That's a picture. We need to identify the picture, identify the data there, gather the information, and interpret it into words. But here the thing is different. Here we can see that it is a step-by-step process. Arrows are there. So what we have to do is that we need to present this particular thing in sequence using sequential words. This is something which is important here in a process diagram. In a process diagram, we need sequential words. What do you mean by sequential words? Firstly, secondly, thirdly, next, then after that, in the consequent step, in the subsequent step, ultimately, finally, eventually, all these things are called sequential words. In academic task 1, when you are attending a process diagram, we need badly this particular vocabulary. In the first step, in the preliminary step, in the elementary step, the fundamental process is initially, to commence with, to begin with. All these things are sequential words. The sequential words are very important in this particular type of presentation, that is process diagram when we have process there. Sequential word. I told that this particular task is to be written in simple present tense, and as far as this is an artificial process, you are not supposed to write this in active voice. You are supposed to write this in passive voice, because you have no subject here. You have no idea who is picking the apple, who is transporting the apple, who is washing the apple, who is checking the quality, who is storing it in the cold storage. All these things, the subject is unclear. When the subject is unclear, naturally we have to present it in passive voice. So passive voice is that voice we use, simple present tense passive voice. Number one. Number two, sequential words. Number three, the main verbs. Here we can see the main verbs written there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally in a process diagram, you won't be having these things which I have marked. You have to identify this is hand picking. You have to identify this is transporting. You have to identify this is washing. You have to identify this is quality check. But here we have the headings. It helps. This is very easy because everything has the title there. But normally in a process diagram, you won't be having any of these vocabulary that you need to interpret it. So you need to arrange these things in sequence, as well as you need to interpret in a normal process diagram. Here you are very lucky. You have got the vocabulary there. The verb, the main verb, all the main verbs are there. Handpicking, transporting, corning, labeling, storage, dispatch, sterilizing, stealing, sealing, grading, peeling, canning, quality check, cold storage, washing, everything, every main verb is there. Or else, in some of the tests, you won't be having all these things written. So you need to identify what, see the picture and identify what is that particular action. See, for example, you may have, if you search, you'll be getting a process diagram of brick making process. So how bricks are made. So you can see something, the pictures only. No, they won't be writing these hand picking, transporting, all these things. You just, they show only the pictures. You need to interpret what exactly it is, and then you need to, so there you need to be careful about the tense, the voice, the sequence, and the main verbs. And that makes it complex. Okay, so let's go ahead. What is the introduction? Here the question is, the diagram shows how apples are canned. How apple is canned, that's it. The introduction here, the step-by-step process of canning fresh apples. Why it became fresh? Because you hand pick it. For commercial purposes. Why it became commercial purposes? It is sent for sales. It's portrayed in the given diagram. So what is portrayed? What is picturized in the given diagram? It is picturized. What is picturized? The picture is the sequence of this thing. Overall, it is clear that the process begins with harvesting apples and ends with the dispatch of labeled cans from the cannery. So what do you mean by cannery? The area where the fruits or vegetables are canned, like factory, we call it as cannery. So this is the place where we can things, maybe vegetables or fruits or some or fish or meat or whatever it is. Where these things are canned, that is called cannery. So The process begins from harvesting apples, ends with the dispatch. That's it. We don't have anything serious here as an overview. The first step, ripe apples are handpicked. So let me paste it above so that you can see that. In the first step, ripe apples. So you can now go with raw apples, and then when apples are ready to harvest, then only we can pick it. So ripe apples are handpicked from the orchard, the place where these apples are grown or oranges are grown, and are then transported to cannery via trucks. So the first step sequence number 1, then sequence number 2. Once it reaches sequence number 3 and send. Okay, fine. These are sequences. Now we can see the voices are handpicked, are then transported, are washed, are sorted and stored. These are the passive voice that we have used. So we can see the sequence, we can see the passive voice, okay, and we can see the main verbs in the passive voice inside: handpicked, transported, washed, sorted, stored. Handpicked, transported, washed, sorted, stored. 5 things are there in the paragraph. I think it is clear. Now I have to move to the second paragraph. Prior to the process of canning, so before the process of canning, before canning, the apples which are in the cold storage are graded based on their weight. Based on their weight, these are graded. So I don't know how it is the measurement or something like that. So it is based on, it is weighed and graded. So it is based on the grade, based on the weight they are graded. It's not based on the color. It is not based on the taste. It is based on the weight. After this, sequential word number 1, sequential word number 2. After this, each apple is peeled and then sliced pieces. In the next step, okay. So all these things are sequences. Now, prior to the process of canning, before canning, apples which are in the cold storage are graded, passive voice, are graded based on their weight. After this, each apple is peeled, passive voice, and then sliced. Okay. Next, in the next step, these seedless pieces, I have not said that the seeds are removed here. So I have added that particular data here. The seedless pieces are canned in glass bottles, are canned, passive voice, in glass bottles, filled with suitable liquid preservatives. So you can see some sort of water here. You don't know exactly what it is, but you know for canning purpose, we have to use preservatives. So what sorts of preservative? It may be some type of liquid preservatives. That's why I have written liquid preservatives, suitable, appropriate liquid preservative. That's what we have used there. Now towards the end, Sorry. Sealing the bottle is the next step. So what is the next step? Sealing the bottle is the next step. And in the subsequent step, sequential words. The seal cans are sterilized at desired temperature. After bringing the bottles back to the room temperature, again, the sequential words. Those are labeled. Those or these, I think I can go with these. These are labeled and stored in warehouses before dispatching to sales. Again, sequence. So you can say are sterilized, are labeled. All these things are passive voice too. So the thing is clear: passive voice, sequential words, and present tense. That's it. Very simple.